You know what I miss, bro?
What do you miss, Cam?
Antonio Cesaro being in the title picture.
I'm Carlos.
This is Cameron.
And this is Csquared.
Bro, his uppercut and that neutralizer. Come on, man. Tell me, you can't tell me that's not entertaining TV.
I mean, here's the thing about Antonio Cesaro. One of the best U.S. championships reigns of all time. That's, of course, not including John Cena's, because John Cena was a great U.S. champion. That was the last time that title was relevant. But since then, no one's really held that title and made a difference. I think Booker T held it for a little bit, but it wasn't even that. Who cares? But Antonio Cesaro, when he was champion, that uppercut, that what's his other signature?
The neutralizer.
What's it called? The neutralizer. Man, like he's in the ring and he's just a powerhouse, man. He's so strong.
Do me a favor. Name the current U.S. champion. Exactly. Dean Ambrose is holding the title, but do you think anyone cares? No, because he's not Antonio Cesaro.
And that's the thing. Most average casual fans don't know who either the Intercontinental Champion. Well, I mean, I guess maybe they know Big E just because he's up and coming, but no one knows who the U.S. Championship is because they think Dean Ambrose and they just think the Shield. They don't think U.S. Champion. It's really sad how irrelevant that championship is. The main topic of this conversation is going to be superstars who have been screwed over. So, Antonio Cesaro, definitely one of those champions that deserves to be in at least, well, now that the titles are unified, but at least should have been in the World Heavyweight Championship contention or something. In my eyes, he should be a champion. He should definitely be in the run. Oh, speaking of which, you know what's going to be interesting? I'm hoping that they bring the number one contendership match back so that superstars like Antonio Cesaro, well, not really Jack Swagger. I don't think Jack Swagger should be champion anymore. But
you know why Jack Swagger shouldn't be champion?
Why?
He's been crying and complaining for years to get a title shot, and the second he gets his title shot, he screws it up.
Yeah,
outside the
ring. Yeah, right. So yeah, I don't think Antonio Cesaro too much, but I think, wow, his name just can't come to me. Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler definitely needs to be a champion. But the minute he gets his championship, unfortunately, he gets a concussion and he's out of the ring for actually a month and a half, right? For quite some time, and then the minute he comes back, he loses his championship. I mean, come on, you just screwed that guy over big time.
When Alberto Del Rio has a second championship ring that lasts longer than Dolph Ziggler's championship ring, there needs to be some reassessing of priorities.
Like, so many superstars are just being screwed over. Since Cesaro and Ziggler are just two of the big ones that come to mind, though. But I don't know what's going on. CM Punk, he wasn't really screwed over. He kind of took a break there, but he deserved that break. But now that he's back, I guess, yeah, it's not fair to put him directly in the title shot contention, but, he should definitely be in that picture. Putting him in the ring with former superstars, really, former world champions, he's definitely deserving to be in the title shot. I'm hoping that, now with the unified titles, what they start doing is they have one unified championship and they start bringing that number one contendership title back. So where not Jack Swagger, right?
Cesaro,
right? Ziggler, and other superstars like Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is a superstar who's a great tag team champion, but not as good as Team Hell No. I mean, as bad as it sounds, the Rhodes brothers are they're a great tag team. They're just not good champions.
And speaking of the tag team championship, do you know who's also been really screwed over? The Usos. And we could say,
primetime players.
Yeah.
Oh man,
the two teams we just named. We could say we could be naming scrubs, but we're not. We're naming people that the crowd really loves and really gets into it. Every time the primetime players comes out, you see people dancing in the crowd. And the Usos, they have this call and speak type thing with the crowd.
Usos. Right, like you got these two. We're not saying like 3MB. We're not saying Zack Ryder or anything like that. We're talking about genuine people who deserve title shots, who deserve to, even if they're not in title shots, to at least be recognized for what they're doing. You have people like the Usos, for example. They were number one contenders now twice, and they've been overlooked. One time it was by the Shield. The next time it was by the Rhodes brothers. And now it's by Big Show and Ray, who've both been multiple champions for over 20 years now.
We watched the Fatal 4-Way Elimination Tag match at TLC, and when we saw it came down to it was the Usos, Big Show and Ray, and the tag team champions. We're expecting, it's going to be the Usos versus the tag team champions,
or at least the Real Americans. I was pulling for the Real Americans the whole time.
Yeah, but no, it ended up being Big Show versus Rey Mysterio at the end.
If you guys watched the match, and if you didn't watch it, when it was Cesaro and Jack Swagger in the ring, and I'm not a big fan of Jack Swagger, but when he was in the ring, especially Cesaro, when he was in the ring, that crowd was going nuts. His new move where he spins the people around, that move is just amazing. People go crazy over Cesaro. I was genuinely surprised that they didn't win. I thought, even if they didn't win, they would have been the last team. You have Ray, who just came back from an injury, who's been gone for just quite some time, come in and he eliminated 8 people when he came back. His return match eliminated 8 freaking people. I mean, yeah, he's a great superstar in his time, but come on, you're coming back and eliminating 8 people and then being put in a tag team championship position. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. No, I am saying that. He does not deserve that right now. And in his career, he should be, jobbing. I think I said it last podcast. Chris Jericho's doing it how he needs to be doing it. He left the WWE because he has a band. He's focused on his band, but he still loves his career in the WWE, so he comes back and he jobs. He jobs to Fandango. He jobs to anybody who needs to be put over in the crowd. He'll job to CM Punk. I mean, it's not really jobbing to CM Punk. There were good matches, but, he uses his prior career, his height, to elevate other superstars. When you have superstars who come back, like Rey Mysterio, The Rock, things like this, and they beat superstars who are up-and-comers, you're basically stunning their growth. And this is my thing. John Cena versus The Rock, part 1. This is the prime example of, for me, what's wrong with the WWE. You can't have John Cena be the face of the company for 10 years. And then The Rock just decided, well, I'm coming back, and I'm going to beat you and actually win. After
being in several movies. Left the WWE, went into the Scorpion King, and just kept making more and more movies. Not saying that, he's bad for advancing his career, but really, you're going to come back and you're going to beat the face of the company that's been the face for 10 years?
Yeah, we're not mad at The Rock. Let's just put that straight. We're not mad at The Rock for advancing his career, for making more money. He was like the highest paid actor of 2013. So, we're not mad at him at all. And, who cares if we're mad at him? He's still making his money. What I am upset about is the fact that it's more not The Rock and more of how the WWE handled the situation. I get it. You're not going to have The Rock lose in Miami, but don't put him against John Cena, the face of the company. You basically made it seem as though The Rock can leave in I think he left in like 1997 or something, or 1998. I may be wrong on there, but I know he left before the millennium or right around the millennium. He leaves, and he can be gone for about 10 years, come back and still be the best star in the company. That just means everything worked for him within those 10 years. All of the matches that John Cena has gone through, all of those I Quit matches, all of the Batistas, everybody who did all of that work for 10 years while he was gone, to make the company what it is, make it a better company. That just means that those superstars, the next generation, isn't as good as the previous generation. That's basically what that's saying. You can have a guy from the 90s leave for 10 years, come back and just beat the best that there is in the business. That's another issue that we have with Brock Lesnar leaving, for example. Brock Lesnar leaves for 3 years, comes back, and he can just break people's arms whenever he wants. I'm not saying he's not a tough guy, but you can't do that to where you're trying to put it over on the fans that these WWE superstars are the strongest and the best guys in the world who can beat whoever they want, and then have them lose when people just leave and come back. So these people, these old timers coming back, are kind of ruining it for the young people. I just feel really bad when you have The Rock headlining a WrestleMania twice, where Daniel Bryan hasn't headlined his WrestleMania in a while. He's never gotten that opportunity. You have Brock Lesnar headlining WrestleMania, where you could have another person, Antonio Cesaro, you could have in there. You could have Dolph Ziggler in there. You can have multiple great superstars. Hell, you don't even need to have those great superstars. You can have anyone else. I made jokes about 3MB, but they can be if you give them the opportunity, they can probably deliver on that. You're stunting their growth. It's different if you're saying they're not ready. I'm going to continue, with these people who I already have. But to bring back old people always talk about, oh, Stone Cold. We want Stone Cold back. Stone Cold even said it. He's not coming back because he's not going to do that to other people.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no point in him coming back.
There's no point because it seems like like you just said a couple seconds ago. It'd be better if they were like, we're gonna stick with Daniel Bryan, we're gonna stick with CM Punk. No, they bring back The Rock, they bring back Brock Lesnar, they put the Big Show over Daniel Bryan, who's way past his prime, and it's just they're not allowing younger superstars to take over and having a better product.
WWE is like the Boston Celtics. It's just an aging company. You just need to invest in your young guys. In 2008, when these new up and comers are coming out, like not in 2007 or 8, but around the time where that Nexus angle was coming around, I personally wasn't a fan of it. I didn't like it. I was like, oh man, all the old guys are leaving. But come on, you can't have people. The Undertaker is a prime example. I love the Undertaker. But dude, come on! Every WrestleMania coming back, you're old, man. Like, just retire already. I love watching the Undertaker fight, but I'm more worried about his health when I see him in the ring. I'm more worried that he's not going to be able to compete in a match to the level that he's put. Randy Orton versus the Undertaker, in what was it, 2009 or 2007? That angle where it was the Legend Killer versus.
I'll check that for you right now, man. Just for accuracy purposes.
All right, yeah, just check that date there. But that angle there, it was it was beautiful. Taker still could put on a great match. It was a great match between the two of them. It was a great story angle. I'm not saying that The Undertaker versus CM Punk wasn't amazing. CM Punk did a great job at carrying that match. Let's just be honest, though. Undertaker's a lot older. It's going to get to the point where he can't come back and compete. Not everyone can be Hulk Hogan, I guess, Mr. 70 years old and still, trying to wrestle. I feel like he's gonna ruin his career by doing so.
The year was 2005. Randy Orton versus Undertaker fans.
Right. So it was 2005. So I think these old guys needs to retire. Triple H, as much as I dislike Triple H, now he's done a wonderful job at transitioning from that superstar role to management role. He's still interfering in the matches a little bit, but that's just for storyline purposes. But overall, I like Triple H now more than I did just a few years ago because he's staying out of the way of the wrestling. He's not trying to make himself champion. He's not being the center of attention.
I really enjoyed just a couple months ago actually when Triple H was willing to job to Curtis Axel. And, I mean, he just gave the guy a chance. He gave the guy an opportunity. Not saying that Curtis Axel will be World Heavyweight Champion, but at least he had a shot.
Right.
Now, WWE sticking him with Ryback, that's
this is another story.
But for a short period of time, Curtis Axel was doing good things. He and Paul Heyman, they had a great angle. And so they just need to stop stunting the rookies' growths for these old guys. Having Big Show in a title match instead of Dolph Ziggler, not right. I'm pretty sure Dolph Ziggler would have put on a better show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he might not have won, but it would have been a better show to watch instead of having what happened at TLC, like crowd cheering boring during one of your matches.
That right there is like the prime example that WWE needs to just wake up. On your pay-per-view, that's the thing. People are paying for this. It's not like people are just watching on Monday Night Raw. You can have a boring match on Monday Night Raw. No one's going to be too mad about it. But people are paying, like, what is it, $45, $60 for this stuff? And, you're going in there and you're having boring matches. I mean, come on. If someone is dancing boring and then the ref has to end it, that's just sad. Where you can have these talented superstars. So what if they're not the same size as that you want them to be? So what? You have a Daniel Bryan who makes a beautiful match. Any match Daniel Bryan's been in for the last couple of months have been magical matches. I don't think I've seen one boring Daniel Bryan match, but I've seen a few boring CM Punk matches. I'm not going to lie, CM Punk's a great superstar, but I've seen a few boring CM Punk matches. That's because he's being booked badly. I'm not saying CM Punk's a terrible. He's a wonderful superstar. he just works best as a heel. Come on.
Yeah, let's just face it. You can't be a renegade. You can't be outlandish as a face. You can, but it'd just be awkward, like what's going on with CM Punk now.
He's a face, but he's not good with authority. If you have him as a heel, now CM Punk is a heel with Paul Heyman at his side. Oh my God, that was the most interesting year of wrestling ever. I took a hiatus from wrestling, where I would watch every now and again, but once I saw CM Punk and Paul Heyman, that got me right back into it. So, WWE management, you got to thank CM Punk for bringing a fan back. CM Punk definitely did that, but that's the thing. You're stunting his growth. I get it. CM Punk's almost 40, but he's still, in the eyes of the company, or at least in the eyes of as a fan for me, he hasn't been able to do much yet. He's going to retire with, being the longest reigning champion of the modern era, but that's about it. And I don't know CM Punk personally, but I feel that maybe he doesn't feel that that's enough. And, he still puts out quality matches. And I feel that he still has a lot left in him to where he can, be considered one of the best in the world. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a gimmick. He can literally be the best in the world. I want to see Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. That's a match I'd like to see. I'd like to see Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler or Cesaro. Those are great matches. Cesaro versus Ziggler. Those are great matches that you could start having. Damian Sandow's another guy. He got screwed out of his Intercontinental Championship.
And out of his World Heavyweight Championship.
Especially out of his World Heavyweight Championship.
But you know what? I think it was a couple months ago on Raw. WWE put Daniel Bryan through a gauntlet. And in the final stage, it was Daniel Bryan versus Antonio Cesaro. That last 30 minutes of Raw, spectacular.
And I don't get it. If you see the fans going crazy. There was a time where actually the WWE was smart. They saw that these matches, that there was, I forget the angle actually. I think it was Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton, and they had that match 3 nights in a row, or not 3 nights in a row, but 3 weeks in a row. They had the Shield versus
Daniel Bryan.
They were Daniel Bryan a few nights in a row. Like, you're doing the right things. You know that it was a 3-man. It was 3-man. It was a Shield versus 3 other guys. But it was a great match, so they had it a few nights in a row. Do that, dude. I mean, if you're not going to have Daniel Bryan in the championship contention, at least put him against Cesaro. Put him against someone who matters. Or at least try to bring them both up. Like, the Wyatt angle is a decent angle, I guess. I love Bray Wyatt's, mic skills. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to do much for either of their careers. I think Daniel Bryan needs to be fighting guys who pose an actual threat to him.
The only way I see the Wyatt angle coming out as a positive is if Daniel Bryan goes heel for it.
Oh, yes.
If Daniel Bryan's like, I'm tired of being screwed over, and, he ends up just punishing everyone, putting everyone in a yes lock. Actually, I'll take that back. I wouldn't want to see him as a heel because I love the fact that he's an underdog champion. I'd hate to see Daniel Bryan put the yes lock on, like, John Cena, and then he and Shawn Michaels being cahoots after Shawn screwed him over royally.
What if, because the Wyatts are heels, but they're kind of like anti-faces, like they're not really heel, they're not really face, they're just kind of doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
So what if Daniel Bryan was just kind of like a renegade? He just kind of did whatever he wanted to do because he's tired of being screwed over.
Yeah, that would be nice. Just as long as he doesn't end up like turning on John Cena and working with Shawn Michaels. I can't see Daniel Bryan and Shawn Michaels working together for a while, unless Daniel Bryan abruptly retires and Shawn Michaels inducts him to the Hall of Fame. That's the only time I'd like to see those two together for a minute. Because
I want to see that match.
Because them disliking each other right now, beautiful. After Shawn Michaels' Sweet Chin Music, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan kicked him in the mouth, I was so excited for that episode of Raw.
That's good. See, and I remember, we were saying our topic was probably going to be underdogs and things like that, but I know we're kind of straying off, so we're just kind of not have any topic for this podcast, really. We're just going to kind of talk around and just kind of tell you how we generally feel about things for right now. Did you hear about Batista coming back?
I did.
Is that like a rumor? Or?
It was scheduled for him to return to a non-televised event, but just earlier today it was pulled. So now I'm not sure what happens with that Batista situation.
Well, whether Batista does come back or not, I think he needs to lose. And we talked about this earlier. Batista, he's a great superstar. When he was in the WWE, man, I was a great Batista fan. But I have this problem with people leaving the company and coming back and being a top champion or a top contender. Rey Mysterio can't leave for a few years, or he didn't leave that long, but he still left for quite some time and comes back and eliminates 8 people. Batista needs to leave. Okay, he comes back and he loses a few matches. Let him lose some matches and let him, talk to the fans and say, like, I need to work harder. I've been working, trying to get myself back up. I know I left you guys, but I'm back. If The Rock even did that, like, even if Rock was like, I've been gone, I'm a little rusty, but you know what? Let's go ahead and let's get working. Let's do this thing. Let's get ready for WrestleMania. That would have been better. If he would have been doing dark matches, things like that. But it's like you can't just speaking of dark matches, last year Undertaker, he wasn't going to come back, but he did a few dark matches in preparation to see if he felt as if, and this is just reading the Bleacher Report. Like, I'm not 100, I don't know the Undertaker, but what I read was that he was doing some dark matches in preparation to WrestleMania to see if he was able to compete, and I respect that because if he would say, what, I'm not able to compete, he would just retire. I think he needs to retire by now. I think maybe one more, if he's going to lose to someone, he should lose to someone like Daniel Bryan, someone young. Because I would be so furious. I love John Cena, but if he loses to John Cena, if he loses to Batista, if he loses to Brock Lesnar, that would just be frustrating. That would just be infuriating.
I feel like there are a few superstars Undertaker could lose to. That'd have to be... Actually, no, not even Dolph. Just Daniel Bryan. Unless sometime in the next 2 or 3 years, WWE builds someone up great. Like... Roman Reigns has a lot of fans behind him, but I couldn't even see him taking down the Undertaker.
No,
I couldn't.
Roman Reigns is a great up and comer. I think he's a great up and comer. I think he could potentially one day be a great champion. I don't know if I want to see him as a face or a heel yet, because I haven't seen him on the. He's not really great on the mic, as far as I've seen. That's just because he's on the Shield.
Yeah.
But if they give him an opportunity, I would love to see what he could do with it. And that's the thing, giving people opportunities. Like, I get it, the WWE obviously knows its stars better than we do. But, at least give some people a chance. There was a time where Dolph Ziggler, and he was talking about this in an interview, where after every match he'd say, top that, because they weren't giving him championship opportunities. His matches were so wonderful that the match afterwards just kind of looked like crap. And they still didn't give him a title opportunity. You finally give him a title opportunity, unfortunately he gets a concussion and then you take it away from him? Come on, like... That's just frustrating.
I wouldn't have had as much a problem as them taking the title away from Dolph Ziggler if they had not given it to Del Rio. Del Rio, he's a good in-ring performer. I don't like him on the mic as much, but he's not a scrub. The problem I have with Del Rio is that he's a boring champion. He doesn't have
charisma.
Yeah, he has no charisma. He doesn't provide a spark anywhere, whether negative or positive to the crowd. They kind of, when he comes out, it's just like, oh, okay, we'll boo for like 4 seconds and that's about it.
I think they just need to give superstars a little bit more creative control over their characters. Because I'm sure, I don't think you can be in the WWE and be boring in real life. If they give certain superstars, some of those lower ones, Heath Slater, you were talking about, he's a great in-ring performer, but he's never actually had a title opportunity. If you give those kind of people like a chance to reinvent them, you give Bray Wyatt a chance to reinvent himself. Granted, he did go down to NXT for a little bit, but give some people a chance to develop. Fandango, I love Fandango in ring. Fandango in ring is so wonderful. Like, Fandango, he's just amazing. And he can work a crowd. You can tell he can work a crowd. He gets booed, he gets cheered whenever he wants. He decides when he gets to do that. But you can't have Fandango as a world champion. You just can't. Not with that gimmick. They need to give him an opportunity to change his image. And he's done that before, hasn't he? Where he has had multiple really whack images.
What I hope doesn't happen while we're speaking on young guys, I hope that they do not shove Big E in a tag team with Mark Henry. because it looks like that's the direction WWE is going.
I hope not.
Right after they give him an Intercontinental Championship, oh, let's throw him in a group with Mark Henry. It's fine. Like you were saying one time off, you were talking about how Big E, if Mark Henry was his mentor, you'd be fine with that. Yeah, that works if he's his mentor. But if we're seeing them in a tag team, it's not the same. Mark Henry as a manager, probably great. That promo he cut earlier in the year about retiring,
and that shows you he's great on the mic. Let him be a manager. Let him be a Paul Heyman. Maybe Mark Henry. Look, Mark Henry's great in the ring. He has not shown any signs of decline. So if he wants to continue wrestling, hey, this fan, I don't care. Let him wrestle. But if he ever decides to want to retire and let the man on the mic and be a manager for Big E, you got that right on the nail, bro. Like he that'd be so great. But if they put him as a tag team, man, that'd just be so boring.
That would not be good for
That wouldn't
business.
be good for business.
It wouldn't be best for business.
Wouldn't be good for Big E.
Speaking of Big E, while we're still on the subject of Big E, he needs to have the 5 count as a champion.
Yes, this is something that we've been talking about for a few weeks. Actually, since he became champion.
Yeah.
We were talking about how if he ever becomes champion, he needs to bring back the 5 count. You know how his entrance goes, 3 ain't enough, man, I need 5. He needs that.
Because in NXT, when he was NXT World Champion, he made the referee do a 5 count for his matches. He needs to bring that back for the Intercontinental Championship.
Because the Intercontinental Championship is what? Irrelevant. And it's really sad. It's coming up, but it's irrelevant. And if you have a 5 count for the Intercontinental Championship, that could be some. See, people hate on TNA, and I used to be one of them, but then I started watching for a little bit, and I actually enjoyed it. They had the 8-sided ring. They have different types of matches where they do crazy things. Where there's this one match where you have to climb a ladder. No, you have to pin someone, climb a ladder, touch a turnbuckle. There's like a ton of stuff you have to do to win the match. Cam, you know a little bit more about TNA than I do, though. How does the match go?
The match he's talking about is the King of the Mountain match. What you would have to do is you'd have to pin someone, climb the ladder, and hang the title up, and then the referee will restart the match, and then you'd have to climb the title and bring it back down and win the match. Now, about the wrestler being pinned, he'd have to go into a pod for 5 minutes. And in that elimination pod, you can be thrown through it, you can jump off it and use it as a weapon. It was such a good match.
This is when it was 6-sided?
Yeah, it was 6-sided.
They don't do this match anymore?
They've done it once in like 4 years.
They have that other match where it's 3 contracts hang over the ring.
That's what I was going to talk about next. It's called a Feast or Fired match, where they have 3 championship contenders for their titles, and then there's 1 pink slip. And you grab a briefcase, and in the next week they'll announce whether you got a world title shot, X Division title shot, which is their middle belt, or their tag team title shot, or you got fired. And I just feel like those are really good ideas, but they just...
And Chavo, you said, got fired, right?
Chavo got... And in the recent Feast or Fired match, Chavo got fired, and 3 other young up-and-coming wrestlers actually had title shots, which is another thing I enjoyed.
That's the thing. See, TNA, they don't get a lot of love, but they finally are starting to invest in their up-and-comers. The X Division champion, the X Division is looking good. It's looking better than our Intercontinental Championship for WWE. And I say our just because I used to watch TNA a lot, but I kind of stopped a little bit. It's not because it's a bad show or anything like that. I just didn't have time to watch 2 wrestling companies. But I'll probably start watching because it seems as though ever since Hulk Hogan left, it's starting to pick up again. Maybe they'll bring back that 6-sided ring. That would be, because... Oh, wait. Before we continue, the women's division in TNA was phenomenal when I was watching it. I think WWE needed to take a little bit of a page out of their division because it was more... There were less divas and more... I'm a wrestler. I wrestle as well. I can do it just as good as the guys do. Now it's like WWE's trying to do that. Their best example of that is AJ. AJ Lee is wonderful. Natalia is great. What's the name of that?
Caitlyn, or are you talking about?
Caitlyn, yeah, Caitlyn is another one. But then all these other divas, the Bellas, they're a little bit of
the
that.
Total Divas crew is definitely out of its. It shouldn't.
It's hurting them a lot more than it's helping them. I mean, it's giving them publicity, but it's making their titles seem their division seem just kind of girly, kind of like just irrelevant.
Who's the number one contender for the Divas Championship? You don't even know, do you?
I think it's Natalya, right?
And even it possible. I'm asking because I don't know.
would just assume because she was the last person to fight AJ.
Before AJ had the title, who was the champion?
It was Caitlyn, right?
I don't know.
See, I actually watched the Divas, so if it was Caitlyn, it might have been Caitlyn, but I actually watched the Divas matches just because I still have hope. Let's just be honest, I watched the Divas matches because AJ Lee is phenomenal. Her mic skills, I can see that she's dating CM Punk because they both have amazing mic skills. They're both great in the ring. I'm sure they probably practice at home. You know, they're great. They are phenomenal superstars, both of them. And kudos to them. They need to take AJ Lee as the model for what they want the Divas to be. When Trish Stratus was out there, that's what the models for Divas needed to be. You needed to be a beautiful woman who could kick some ass. And now you need to be a beautiful woman who can kick some ass. Somewhere in between. They missed that. Beth Phoenix, you remember when Beth Phoenix was around? I loved Beth Phoenix. Because Beth Phoenix, she would just destroy anyone she wanted to destroy. I kind of got a little mad when they started giving her too much emotion. But I guess you got to make the character a little bit more realistic. But it was just beautiful when you give these women opportunities to actually fight and actually show off their in-ring skills and not in some reality show.
The champion before AJ Lee was champion was, yes, Caitlyn.
That was Caitlyn. And she actually ended up not being champion because she started crying because Big E. That was the dumbest storyline in the world. It was funny, but it was really stupid. It was like Big E had a secret admirer. She had a secret admirer. It turned out to be Big E, and then right before Big E was gonna kiss her, he dropped her on her ass and just laughed. Yeah, and she just laughed at him. Just laughed at him in her face. She started crying, and AJ picked up the win. Where's Caitlyn now? Is she retired?
No, she's still an active wrestler. She's just
never there.
Doing it, nothing.
And that's the thing. How can you go from being a top superstar, literally topping your division champion, to not being anywhere? They basically stunted her growth. I'm not mad that AJ's champion. I'm never going to be mad that AJ's champion. AJ can be champion for years to come. She's relevant. Whenever she's on the mic, she said it herself. She's better than all the divas out there, and I believe it. But, Caitlyn shouldn't have just been dropped off. She should have been continued to be put out there. She should continue to be in matches with Natalya. Natalya is one of those wrestlers in ring, dude. In ring, she looks so good. She makes her family look good. Yeah. But on the mic, give Caitlyn and Natalya team up. Have her coach her. Teach her the ropes. Because I feel like she could be the future of the company. The best example I could think of Natalya would be she's a female Chris Jericho. Well, in terms of she's a really great in-ring performer, but she has no problem putting over younger superstars. That's Natalya? Yeah. Yeah. And about Natalya. Yeah, you're right. You're right. She's a great in-ring performer, but she has no problem putting over AJ Lee, Caitlyn, as long as she, She's happy to be in the WWE. She's very happy to be in the WWE, and she has no problem not being champion. I think she deserves it, but I like AJ Lee, so I'm not going to get into who should be champion. They have enough divas in the WWE where they could have kept the women's championship. I think. Yeah. Could have kept it relevant with 2 titles, but WWE. I'm not too decisive on what they did with the divas because whatever. And that's what's sad. That's what's sad about it. That's what's sad about it that the WWE divas are just kind of like a whatever thing. All of those. If we're gonna talk about people being screwed over, count in the divas. Yes. Count in the divas. They're being screwed over. Because when's the last time you've seen Layla? Who? Exactly. When's the last time you've seen? That's the thing. You don't know any of the names. I think there's someone called Alicia Fox. Name all the divas. Can you name all the divas? And I actually watch the divas again. I actually watch divas matches, but they're just that irrelevant. Unless you're watching Total Divas, you have no idea what's going on with that division. And that's another thing. Total Divas, if storylines carried over from Total Divas onto WWE, that'd be great. If, for example, let's say I think there was an episode where Fandango was talking smack to what happened was Fandango was flirting or something with Natalya, and Tyson Kidd
had a problem with it, so those two ended up fighting on a Raw.
Yeah, like that's cool. That's great. Do that. You know, that'd be awesome. Because then the girls, they would at least get that push.
Publicity.
Exactly, publicity. Like have them be mad at each other on Sunday. Is it Sunday that Total Divas airs? I don't know.
I think so. I could check, but
I don't know. Whenever it airs, have them have a problem and then have them fight on Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown. That would be great. But we're running a little bit over on time now, so we're going to call this one there. This has been Csquared. Again, guys, if you guys like football, basketball, anything like that, check out Taylor Pugh's his
YouTube channel. It's TDH Sports. Again, that's TDH Sports.
Okay, check that out, guys. And if you have any questions, anything, we like advice. We definitely do like advice. This is new to us with the podcast. So, if we're kind of everywhere, we're all over the place, it's okay if you guys let us know. We definitely are trying to get a little bit more direction, but we're new to this, so we'll get better. But if you guys have any questions or any comments or anything you guys want us to cover next time, leave them in the comments, and we'll go ahead and take care of those for you guys, all right? So, again, this has been Csquared. Take it easy, guys. I've been Carlos.
This is Cameron.